Today's topic for discussion in project management is the project appraisal techniques. Before coming to the project appraisal techniques, let us discuss the meaning of the project appraisal. What is project appraisal? The project appraisal basically is the process of evaluating a project's potential to check the viability of the project before implementing any projects, to check its feasibility and overall value before committing resources to it. Is the part of the project appraisal means appraising the project on various parameters so that we can take decision that whether we have to go for it or not. This is the project appraisal. It is a process of evaluating a project to determine its feasibility, profitability, and overall value before committing resources. Before putting the resources into it, we have to take that what is the overall worth, overall value of it. It involves analyzing various factors such as financial viability, technical requirements, market demand, risk, and potential social or environmental impact. Means social cost benefit analysis, in which we will take that what cost society has to bear against that project and what benefit they are getting out of that project. If the benefit are more than the cost, then we will go for that to decide whether a project should be undertaken or not. What does it mean? It means that if the cost the society is bearing against that project is less than the profit they are getting, then certainly we have to go for that. The appraisal process ensures that resources are allocated efficiently and that projects align with the strategic goals of the organization or stakeholders involved. Means whatever stakeholders are involved in that particular project, under which or organizational boundaries the project is going to be implemented, whether the goal of the project are aligning with the organizational objectives or not, and checking the viability of all these factors is the part of your project appraisal. Various components which are involved in the project appraisals are the first thing is the financial appraisal, means to check the financial viability of the project on various parameters. Because the finance is the major part which is involved in the project appraisal, and whether the project is financially viable or not, whether it is capable of generating profitability or not, that is the part of financial appraisals. And basically financial appraisal techniques involves in itself various methods which are basically of two types, divided into components, taking time value of money into consideration. One is the discounting as well as the non-discounting techniques, and discounting techniques comprises the calculation of net present value, internal rate of return, payback period, and profitability index. And the payback period is the part of your non-discounting technique, in which the payback period as well as the discounted payback period is calculated to know that whether the project is financially viable or not, so that you can take the decision prior to implementing that particular project. So what are these methods? That's a net present value comprises the net present value of that particular project. It involves the time value of money into consideration. The time value of money concept says that the value of money goes on decreasing as the time passes. Then up to which period you are going to implement your project, and within that time frame, calculated net present value is positive or not, which can be computed easily by getting the present value of all probable cash flows and comparing all those probable present value of all those cash flows with the initial investment. And if it gives the positive response, it means the project should be accepted on the method on the basis of net present value. Means net present value must be positive for going for that particular project. And that's why the net present value is the present value of all cash flows minus initial investment. Means if the present value of all probable cash flows is more than the initial investment, then the net present value will be positive. And if it is positive, then we have to accept the project. Otherwise, we should reject the project on the parameter of net present value. Another methodology is the internal rate of return, which determines the discount rate that makes the net present value zero. What does it mean? It means that every project had its own rate of return, and that return of that particular project is known as the internal rate of return. And what you are expecting out of that project, that is the expected rate of return. And the decision criteria is, if the decision criteria says that if the expected rate of return is more than the internal rate of return, only then you will go for the project. Suppose that you have 10 lakh rupees and you are putting that money into the saving bank account and you are getting the 3.5% rate of interest. Suppose that you are getting 3.5% rate of interest. And if you want to start a new project, then what IRR you are getting out of that particular project? If that is more than 3.5, then you will go for that. So internal rate of return is the return that makes the net present value is equal to zero, and that is compared with the expected rate of return. If it is more than that, then the project should be accepted, otherwise it should be rejected. Similarly, there is a profitability index. This is another method of appraising the project, or to checking the financial viability of the project. What does it say? It says that the present value of all flows of all inflows, means all probable inflows which you are expecting out of that particular project, the present value of all those probable cash flows should be divided by the initial investment, and if the value is more than one, then we will accept the project, otherwise we will reject the project. And this is the decisional criteria for profitability index, which compares the present values of future cash flows to the initial investment. Means this is the ratio basically between the present value of cash flows and initial investment. And if this ratio is greater than 1, then we will accept the project. If it is less than 1, then we will reject the project. Similarly, there is a payback period method, which shows that up to which time period you will recover the initial investment from your project. There is no discounting technique. Why this is a non-discounting technique? Because time value is not considered in this method. And it basically measures the time required to recover the initial investment. Suppose that are investing 1 lakh rupees in any project, and your expected inflows are 10,000 per annum for 10 years. It means that in 10 years, you will recover this initial investment, that is rupees 1 lakh. The payback period of this particular project will be how much? This will be 10 years. Because in 10 years, 1 lakh, 1 lakh, 1 lakh, up to 10 years, you will easily recover, you are recovering the 1 lakh rupees. Why it is not considering the time value of money? Because after 1 year, you are getting 1 lakh rupees, but the today's value is less than 1 lakh. But payback period is not considering that present value. It is calculated on the basis of probable future outflow inflows which you are getting after 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 years, up to 10 years. Then the payback period will be 10 years. And payback period on the what will be the decisional rule, that if you are how much time period you are expecting out of that project to recover your initial investment. If that payback period is shortened than that expected payback period, only then the project should be accepted, otherwise it should be rejected on the basis of payback period method. So these are some methods on the basis of which the financial viability of a project is checked to, and the decision is taken whether to proceed for that particular project or not. Another component or technique is the technical appraisal. In technical appraisal, we have to evaluate the technical feasibility of the project, including the adequacy of technology, processes, and resources required. Means whether the technology is available easily or not, what the process technology requires, and what additional resources which are required for that particular technology. There are various considerations which take place in the technical appraisals. First is the availability of technology and expertise, whether it is available or not, infrastructure requirements, time frame for the completion, and technical risks and challenges which are involved in the techniques or technology to be used in that particular project. Another aspect is the market appraisal. That is also very important. Market appraisal basically assess the demand for that particular project's output. If there is no demand, then what is the need of implementing that project? It also includes the market size, growth potential, and competition involved with that particular project's output. Various methods for appraising the project on this parameter are the market research and analysis, competitors analysis, demand forecasting, pricing strategy. Which strategy should be followed to implement or to introduce the project into the market, that project's output into the market. And that is the part of market appraisal, which checks the market viability of the projects, whether it is viable on this parameter or not. That is another. And another component is the economic appraisal. This is also one of the important factor. Economic appraisal determines the broader economic impact of the project. In long term, what will be the impact of that particular project on our economy, including its effect on the national economy, how much it's going to contribute to our national economy. Their viability is known as the economic appraisal, and that involves in itself how will you analyze all these things, involves the job creations and economic growth, contribution to gross domestic product, multiplier effects. All these things are the part of the economic appraisal, on the basis of which you have to appraise the project. Then there is a social appraisal also, which is the part of appraisal techniques. Social appraisal assess the social implication of the project, including its impact on communities, stakeholders, and social equity. Since how much project is contributing towards the society and what the cost society is going to bear against that particular project. What will be the impact of the persons or members which are involved in that particular project, basically known as the stakeholders. To checking all these things, evaluating all these things is the part of the social appraisal. The methods which are used for this appraisal are the social impact assessment, stakeholder analysis, public consultation and engagement, equity and inclusion considerations.